Commercially, Brixham is England's most important fishing port. Last year, these big trawlers landed $50 million worth of fish, sold on from Brixham's computerised market to destinations all across Europe. Fishing is the town's lifeblood, directly employing hundreds, but thousands more rely on it. Brixham is surviving, but complains of a slow decline. Nearly everyone here voted for Brexit, hoping to break free from the EU's hated system of fishing quotas. Barry Young is managing director of Brixham Trawler Agents and hopes for a better deal.
There'll be lots and lots of negotiations, and I'm sure there'll be some give and some take, and I'm sure the British fishermen would be happy just to have a bigger piece of that pie.
UK politicians have made bold promises about taking back control of British waters. Expectations have been raised. Under the current EU quota system, British fishermen catch about 30% of all the fish taken in British waters. EU and Norwegian boats take most of the rest. The fishermen here in Brixham recognise that after Brexit, EU boats should continue to have access to British waters. They say they just want a fairer share of the fish caught in their own sea. Once out of the EU, technically the UK will be free to control its own waters under UN law. But the EU insists continued access will be a precondition for a trade deal.
Our free trade agreement must include an agreement on fisheries. This agreement should provide for continued reciprocal access to markets and to waters with stable quota shares.
Only 8 EU states have fishing industries, but their fishermen wield considerable political power. There's been confrontation at sea before, this over scallop fishing in 2018.
The French are a nation that fight for what they want. We want the British to fight for what we want. We can't afford to give them what they want. We have to stick up for the English, British people.
You know, they'll attack you, they don't care, like, they'll get what they want, like, you know what I mean? If we did what the French did, we'd be in court tomorrow.
While there is grudging respect for their French counterparts, the feeling of resentment towards the EU runs deep here. There's not much trust in British politicians either. For an island nation, fishing is symbolic, but it accounts for a tiny fraction of the British economy. Fishermen here say when it comes to negotiations with the EU, they've been sold out before. They hope it won't happen again. Simon McGregor-Wood, TRT World, Brixham, on the English Channel.
Well, for more, let's go to Rajneesh Narula in London. He's a professor of international business regulation at the University of Reading's Henley Business School. Good to have you back with us, Rajneesh. Now, the two sides have given themselves just 10 months to iron out this all-encompassing trade deal. Can they do it?
Well, Oscar, I think this is going to be a challenge. I mean, doing a large trade deal, even in the best of times, takes about a couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years. In this case, it's going to be something of a challenge. I think that, as you may know, they want neither side has a clear agenda as to where they want to go with this.
Now, the UK, for its part, says it's pushing for a Canada-style agreement. Explain to us what that is in a nutshell.
Well, a Canada-style agreement, Oscar, mainly deals with manufacturing. That is to say, you try to head towards minimal or zero tariffs and reduce non-tariff barriers. It only covers manufacturing. It doesn't cover services. It doesn't cover the movement of people and so on.
Yes, now the EU, as we know, has set out its mandate for these negotiations. It says the price of a new trade deal is the UK abiding by some EU standards and enforced by EU authorities. Is that something the Boris Johnson government is likely to agree?
Well, as you probably know, this is one of the big sticking points there is between the two sides. The EU's red line, in a way, is that there should be a regulatory alignment with EU regulations, and the UK is insisting it won't. Now, this may look like the British do not want to consider this, but in fact there is This is a now matter of weasel words, finding ways of doing the same thing. So there's talk on the British side of using EU law as a reference point, as opposed to saying we are aligning. So this is a new way of saying the same thing. We will not align, but we will use EU law as a reference point, and there will be minimal non-regression. These are the words that they are using. So I suspect we will have alignment, but we will not call it alignment.
And who do you believe has more to lose here if the two sides don't manage to come to an agreement by the end of the year?
Well, I think the estimate is that the UK will lose, probably lose about 8 to 10% of its GDP if they go for a walk away with the WTO regulations, whereas the EU has relatively less to lose, but still it's going to have a considerable effect on the economies of the countries closest to the UK, especially the Netherlands, France, and Belgium, and of course Ireland.
Okay, Rajneesh Narula, let's keep an eye on how these negotiations unfold. Thank you, as always, for your analysis.